One, and we're live.
Well, how about that? Mang and Neads show. Sonic Gardens Radio. Mang and Neads show. Monday, the 11th. Mang and Neads.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Mang and Neads show live on Sonic Gardens Radio. Today, just me and Josh here in the house. I do have a recording that I put together, a song I did. And so I guess today's guest is going to be myself playing in front of the Sleeping Lion. Previously recorded earlier today. Opening track, once again, from our good friend, Mr. Cosmic Theo, out of Ithaca, doing his loop performance. It's good, upbeat. Happy music, man. Spreading the love. Cosmic Theo.
Loop-de-loop.
Wake up and I feel it just fine, but I like what's playing on my mind. Baby, love right next to me. Cut over a second, then we make some tea. Little drop of honey, make it taste so sweet. Warm my bones and I move my feet. Grab my book, I wanna drop right in. Words of wisdom got my tingling. No better way to start my day than to make way for a beautiful day. Make time with an open mind. You wanna hide away, maybe that's your choice. Wanna praise God, maybe raise your voice. This is our time, our world, our choice. So make way. Make way.
All right. To you, Josh. What's happening, man? Anything good? Getting blasted? No, you're okay.
No, I'm okay. Not much.
Got the red specs on today. Looking good.
Yeah, red, pink. Yeah, pink, red.
Pink? Oh, yeah. They look
one
good.
of them. Magenta, they look.
Okay.
They are pink, though.
Breaking out all the Crayola colors.
Yeah. Yeah, these were free.
Man, I
just do what I can with free sunglasses. Wear them.
So my thing that happened was I watched the Waco mini series.
Oh.
Dude, I remember that story
Now this is a fresh one?
This is from they just released it on Netflix. It's 6 or 7 episodes.
All right.
And that's it. Complete story.
Right.
But
because they had one out
so it's from the
year ago or something.
This is from maybe it was a year ago. I don't know. It's hot on Netflix right now.
Right.
And I finally
and I kept hearing that. I keep hearing people say that, but I saw something about that a year ago. This is David Koresh, right?
Yeah. So what? This is from the perspective of one of his,
inside.
One of his devotees, specifically, that got out.
Right.
At the last minute. And I say got out, but he finally decided, oh shit. I'll tell you what, the story's crazy, but
people got shot
and the other person that helped, so it's 2 books that they made into this mini series. And one perspective was the guy who was and it's from the perspective of he was a drummer and met David Koresh just outside a place, and David Koresh's drummer didn't show, so he says to the kid, hey, you want to play the drums? And then he's like, come back with us. We can show you, a cool whatever. Come stay the night, and this and that. And then the kid ended up staying there, but it's from his perspective of, why he stayed, what made him stay, why he followed him, the whole thing, and his perspective. So it's basically his perspective directly from the inside of the compound. And then the other part of the story is told from the negotiating FBI agent.
Yeah.
And that guy
is a fucking toolbox.
No, that guy was actually amazing. He got fired the day before they raided it. The boss on site sent him home. And because they were sick of holding out. 51 days these people held out.
Yep. Yeah,
51 days, and then finally. So the end result was they fucking blasted the place with tear gas. But
Right.
they were all the women and children had locked themselves in a like a vault.
Right.
And so they had gas masks, and they knew they were getting gassed. And all the adults had gas masks, but the children didn't. And there was so they all like locked themselves in these two like different vaults in the compound. And none of like once the tank started crashing in the place, you know, they couldn't open the doors, they couldn't get out of those spots, and they were just totally like blasted with this tear gas that was you know, they mentioned it in the story that it was actually it was deemed illegal in the Geneva Convention, yet the FBI, and then they ended it because a big part of it was like the radio station in that Texas area got involved.
And he was calling them up. David was.
And he was talking about it, and well, they cut him. That was part of it. When he was talking to the radio, they cut him right off mid-broadcast. But yeah, man, it ended so tragically, and you know, when you look at the point of view, it was, you know, from the inside, it's in all, you know, these guys didn't do anything. The big thing was who fired first. They came to serve a search warrant, and suddenly there was gunfire.
Right.
It definitely wasn't David. And when you meet the people, it's not like they were like these, like, you know, gun toting, you know, like, it wasn't like they were all about guns. They just had guns to protect themselves. They were all, the guy was legitimately a follower of Christ, and the people that stayed, he had like a professor of theology was like his right-hand man, a guy that went there to defraud him and make, you know, and debunk his whole thing, and ended up staying, bringing his wife, letting his wife marry the guy and have a child with his wife. I mean, they had a lot. I mean, it was a fucked up thing, but you know, like when it really came down to it, he was a true like follower of, you know, the whole thing, and his big mistake was he just didn't want to give up and surrender. And if he did, he could have saved all those people. So, dude, the tragic. I mean, fuck it, man. Spoiler. It's history, so you can talk about history.
Yeah, no, I've seen, or I don't know if I've seen that one, but I saw
like
a big
at the
story
very end
about
after the place. So one of the factors that the radio station guy mentioned, and they say at the end, was he listed a whole list since like the 70s when the FBI raided a compound, ended up tear gassing them, causing a fire, and everyone dies. And it's like they do it time and time again, and it's just out of control that they didn't, and like he mentioned, what didn't they have when they did this raid? No plans of putting a fire out.
Right.
And then they
had a fucking tank though.
And then the FBI said that they did it. They set the fires, and it was a mass suicide.
Yeah.
And according to the inside, because this guy lasted right to the end, and he literally jumped out the window when the place was on fire.
Yep.
And that's the guy that told his story. But you know, he yeah. Like they didn't start the fire was the perspective that I got. It seemed like they were legit. So you know, just a tragic case of you know, even the way that they discovered them was they were buying a lot of weapons. So they got on a list of like, whoa, what are these guys buying weapons for? Then when they went to search about it, they found he was just a weirdo. You know, he had multiple wives. He had, you know, multiple children with different women. Nobody else at the compound was allowed to have any children or even have sex. It was only him, you know, like weird stuff. And he would claim that it was like he's taking on that burden of having, you know. So yeah, man, crazy story, but in the end, you know, just tragic. Like like one of his things in the beginning was he wanted to have his you know, his be recorded and his statement put on the news. And then he just basically got picked apart by society as like being a wacko, because they were like, he's just like, and even like they showed it in the movie, everything he said was just like Bible quotes, and basically like it's almost like using the Bible and all your what were we talking about yesterday? Like the idioms.
Yep.
And all your things that you say are just quotes from the Bible. It's almost like a more specific version of the idioms where it's just like everything you say and every line, like everything he's saying. It's like the chosen will rise up and, you will all be sitting, at the right hand of the Father and sacrifice for your Lord. And like those, they're all just like same terms that are like, yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep. Some
like
Charles
Manson
shit.
Yeah. Well.
Kinda.
Yeah. Like
I saw one of them.
As,
I don't know. Like it was. I definitely saw.
Well, we can watch like right now. That's like public files. We can actually pull David Koresh up.
Right.
And, like listen.
I saw a
mini
series.
It's just like, man, it didn't do him any justice that he's in like a wife beater. He's all straight.
Right.
And he's like he doesn't. And of course, like there's the theory that if if the Lord himself, Jesus Christ, or God reincarnated, whatever, was standing right in front of you, you probably would, wouldn't give him the time of day.
Are you gonna watch the movie that they put out?
There's a Waco movie?
Yeah, a couple years ago they put one out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of tough to like beat. Like if it's a movie, then it was probably crunched into like 2 hours.
Right.
It's worth watching.
Right.
Like I mean, sometimes I don't like revisiting the. Like historical things
right,
like that.
I'm like, 9/11.
I know that story.
Right.
And what it always comes down to is you don't really know the story unless you, unless you read one of these people's books or something that came out.
You kind of know
after.
The basics to ones like they do the like 9/11 one and.
Yeah, but I was pretty confident that they were more like gun toters and that they were just the way that everything.
The Waco one.
Yeah. Like that they were guys that were like just all about like weapons and defense, and they incorporated that in their like religion, but it wasn't about that. It was just about having the protection. But yeah, they did have a huge stockpile of guns, so they wanted to protect their own and their so it's just one of those things where. But man, when that fire took place,
it burnt like a motherfucker.
Well, the fire and the initial when they came to serve the warrant, and then they're like they see them all pulling up, and they got like a warning because the mailman was one of the guys too. Yeah. So he was like saw all these like military come in and went and warned them. So then he's like telling his people, okay, everybody keep calm, don't do anything stupid. I'm gonna take care of this.
Right.
And he walks outside and he's like, hold up, and they all 50 guns on him, and all of a sudden they start something's like they showed in the movie that like a dog barked, and then they like guys were climbing over a fence and they ended up shooting a dog, and then fire just broke out, and then Koresh got shot, and then backed into the house, and then 51 days later they burned the place to the ground, killed them all. There was like originally 126 people, and I think like 30 some got out, and 25, and of the like 90 something that didn't get out, 25 of them were kids.
Yep. Bunch of them. Kids everywhere.
Not too many. It was 20, 25 or something. Oh. Yeah, 24, 25 kids. 71. I don't remember what the numbers were exactly, but
51 of them died though, right?
51
died,
adults,
right?
And no, 70, 75 or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was bad.
75? You sure?
Yeah. It was, because I remember that was something at the end. It was either 75 or 95.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. That's a lot.
Yeah, the other thing they called, there's like recordings, 911 call from the house when the FBI or the ATF is assaulting, and there's fire, and they're fighting, gunfights, and they called the sheriff, 911, and they're like, sheriff, they're shooting at us, and he's like, who is? And then you find out they had no communication. All those ATF guys didn't have any phones out there.
Right. Pregnant women died.
Oh, yeah, man.
Couple of them, right? Oh, yeah. Yeah. But he could have saved all that. I get the point, but he could have just surrendered.
Yeah, he should have just surrendered. Oh, without a doubt.
He could have definitely just surrendered, saved a bunch of lives. I get what
No, I mean the whole, like, obviously they were just everybody was worried they were gonna, they were talking, manslaughter, going to jail.
Yeah, well, I mean,
all these things.
I
but
guess they didn't want to. A lot of them didn't. Well, 76 of them didn't. But the 25 fucking children, they should be able to choose whether, you know what I mean? Just because your parents are fucking out there doesn't mean they need to be.
Yeah, there were 4 ATF agents killed, 16 wounded, 6 killed on February 28th, and 76 people killed on April 19th, which was day 51.
Yeah,
so yeah, total of 76 killed.
Yeah.
And they don't say that, but 25 were children.
Yeah.
Fucked up. Yeah, so that was just a kind of crazy instance, and I really felt that FBI agent, because he saw that they were because they were getting, there was basically there was the negotiator, then there was the lead tactical guy,
right?
And the way they portrayed it was the lead tactical guy, wanted to show his brute force, and he's like, what does it look like to the world?
They had a tank on scene, didn't they?
Oh, multiple tanks.
Yeah,
and they
poked right through that wall,
the wall, and then blast tear gas in there. So they literally they showed it in there that they blasted into that vault directly.
Right.
They're like, how come nobody's coming out after they tear gas? And they're like, because all the kids are in the vault. Because all the they literally wanted them to get tear gas. They even in the movie they said that they even mentioned it. They go, well, they have gas masks. What's tear gas gonna do? And they go, well, the children don't. So as soon as those mothers start seeing their kids' eyes water up, they're gonna be exiting. The problem was they were locked in the spot that they couldn't get out of.
Right.
And it was just to keep them safe from gunfire. It wasn't about mass suicide or anything like that.
Right.
But yeah, at that point, when they were all locked in that, at least they showed that the people
that they couldn't
the
get
people
out.
the mothers, I'm sure, took their gas masks off once they realized they were trapped and the kids were dying right next to them.
Yeah, they said, we'll die with you.
They said, yeah. No, everybody. Koresh, too. They portrayed it that he, again, I don't ever know what part they make up for.
Right.
But it just seems like today it's not good for your movie to try to take a historical event like that and throw too much, bullshit in there.
Unless you're fucking, what's his name? Tarantino.
Well, then you just know that it's completely twisted and you can just laugh about different stuff. But yeah, Koresh had that guy that was the professor of theology, his main buddy. That he wanted out. He wanted to surrender, and he was following the word of God. And David said God was telling him to stay, and that's I think the biggest.
You always wonder how God chooses these fucking people that are out there
that's also what this guy said when he was getting talked to by the negotiator. He said. He goes, I don't sometimes I hate David because I just wish that God would have chose anybody else to let his words go through than him. That's how devoted he was to him, but he also didn't like the guy, on that level. And then, but in the end, man, that guy shot him in the head. They sat there and David Koresh looked at him and was handed him a gun, and the guy shot him in the head and then shot himself, killed himself. They were the two main dudes.
Right.
Yeah,
gunshot wound.
So we're gonna drop this special. I guess I'm ready. I'm always a little bit especially trying to do. Yeah, but I got a song. We got a song for you.
We have a song.
If I can pull this.
Fucking lift off.
Pull this stuff up.
Oh, good. I got fucking piss.
Do you?
Yeah. Fucking A.
Pias.
Yeah.
All right, let's see what we can do here.
A lot. Damage.
Cut this over.
Damage control.
Like I said, I recorded this earlier just because can't be in two places.
Well.
Control board. I guess I could figure something out.
Yeah.
But, I'm already juggling the equipment.
Juggling.
Got to switch the angles and such. All right. So yeah, man. Let's go.
I don't know. You're at the control.
Oh, yes, I am. Can you see this screen right here? I do have, it's doing the old spinny. Doing the old spinny.
Really? Old spin.
Yeah, that's all right.
I
think I got too many things open.
Oh.
Maybe. I shouldn't do that really, but sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll give it a minute. You, anything else, man? What else is new?
Nope, you just summed up the day, I guess.
Summed up the day with the Waco thing. Yeah, and then you see, like, I get it. Like, anybody that wants to bring that up for, like, government abuse and times when, our rights as American citizens are.
Yeah, man, I don't know. Just fucking.
But then there was, like, remember that one recently with the those guys that took over the like the national park or some shit. And
how'd that work out?
That they killed that guy, but I saw some. But you
start fucking around.
They killed that mouthy guy. He reminded me of like a Hank Williams III sitting in a chair saying how he,
right,
like, I'll shoot any motherfucker comes near me, coming at me, and then and these guys are on government property. They wouldn't leave.
Right.
And then it was like a situation like Waco where the FBI came and they didn't, like, they, obviously it can go the way of killing people.
Right.
And they chose not to, at least this round. And I think they like let them hold out. And unlike, so that guy ended up going, like, for whatever reason, they left the facility in a car. And as soon as they left, the FBI was on him. So they pulled him over. The dude jumps out of the car, runs for it. And then, they showed it. They showed all that on TV too, man. It's crazy. You can pull that video up. And the dude turns around and, whether he was pulling a gun or pretending, he got shot in the head and dead.
Well, headshot.
The guy that was saying, he'd defend himself.
Fuck the police,
last
he was saying.
Yeah, he was. And, so what happened? Like, why didn't that guy pull a gun? But why'd he even get out and run? Like, just get arrested, man.
Right.
And then, but it kind of bothers me that they kind of try to make him a martyr because it's same as, like, you can't call it a peaceful protest if everybody's got a gun on their hip.
Well, I mean, that's I guess not. If they got them out, it's one thing, but if they just have them, I guess it's still peaceful. Yeah. Because the other side's got a gun.
Well, it's peaceful.
You're going to get that.
I guess
the other side has a gun. Like, no matter what, the police have a gun. What's wrong with them having a gun, right? That's what they think.
And
that might be peaceful, but if you start pulling it, then that ends the peace right there.
Well, and then you're also, like, it's not a good situation to mix those types of
people.
Well, like, if people are yelling and screaming and they're angry, and they have guns,
right?
That's a different situation than.
Well, I mean, yeah,
like,
but
it very easily could turn into
their anger
unpeaceful.
Is over fucking Susie and Betty not being able to open their hair salon.
Well, I'm talking about in general. Like, there's all kinds of,
I mean, it's all who you're fucking dealing with, Angelo.
Yeah.
Like, who the fuck these fucking people are that roll in there. Like, start fighting.
Right.
Punching people. Running people over in cars, they do, and shit. Yeah. I mean, you gotta expect shit like that.
Yeah.
Is what you know what I mean?
Oh, I know.
Both sides, too, though. Like, you gotta, like, if you start, they're just human. Those cops are just human like those fucking people. Same, you know what I mean? They're both humans going in there at a protest and fucking with a cop, man. The cop can only take, you know what I mean? They only take so much. And then one of them, they got the factor on their side of they're the cops and they get away with more than you do just being that protester. No matter who wants to say, like, it's a fact. They get away with more. I mean, they'll say up and down, like judges and lawyers will say no, but you know damn well over the history of it all, like they get away, like they're gonna be a little more lenient on a cop that, you know, they can use excuses like they came at them and shit like that. Like you aren't using that. If a cop comes at you and you shoot him, you're fucking all but done. You know what I mean?
Right.
If it's the other way around, the cop can get away, man, away with it. So you got like,
yeah, that's why it's like all the document everything is so important.
Yeah, man. That's why pushing cops' buttons is not the fucking smart thing to do. Like, I mean, I don't care who you think you are, man. If you push a cop's button, I know, like, you got a chance of it going the wrong fucking way and not in your favor.
Right.
All right, did that upload?
I got it. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're gonna be I'm gonna kick this right in.
Free ball.
So
I was free.
yeah, guys, this is my version of
Toad to Wet Sprocket.
the Radiohead, the
Boom.
Radiohead song "High and Dry." Let's see what we got.
Stoner.
Been waiting all year for this one. Oh. Oh. Hey.
Jumps in a week, I guess you think that's pretty clever, don't you, boy? Flying on your motorcycle, watching all the ground beneath you drop. Kill yourself for recognition, kill yourself to never ever stop. Another mirror, you turn it into something you are not. Don't leave me high, don't leave me dry, don't leave me high, don't leave me dry. Drying up in conversation, you'll be the one who cannot talk. All your insides fall to pieces, just sitting there wishing you could still make love. They're the ones who hate you when you think you got the world all sussed out. They're the ones who'll spit at you, and you'll be the one screaming out. Don't leave me high, don't leave me dry, don't leave me high, don't leave me dry.
Yeah, and we're back.
We'll check that version.
Mang and Neads show.
Yeah, man. That was recorded earlier today. Well, I was screwing around, checking out the spot Dig it.
Over there checking the lion's temperature
Yeah.
in his butt. Oh,
It's such a cool. It's such cool imagery though to have up, like as far as to play in front of. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like it. I think it's pretty neat little setup.
Oh, Warner.
Yeah. What's Warner up to?
I don't know, all the things to pick from, and lion was at the top of his list.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, he was sleeping too.
We talked about it. We talked about how this the whole spot here is almost like a lion. That's like this amazing place that's about to explode. Wake up.
Oh yeah, man.
Once it wakes up.
Yeah, then it's not fucking sleeping anymore, and then he's got to paint over it.
He's got to put some eyes on there.
Fuck.
No, man, if that eye opened,
would have been oh man, it would have been great if he had like one with a animal in its mouth running across
right.
Seriously,
it'd be a little dramatic.
Oh well, man, we're a little dramatic down here, Angelo. If you haven't noticed, we get going. We fucking A. We got Johnny Drama that comes in here.
Oh yeah, man. You know what? We didn't even give.
We
Johnny
didn't play that fucking video yesterday.
All right. I'm doubling up. You gotta send me 2 today.
You got that one still that I sent yesterday, so I'll grab another one here. And
okay.
We gotta get Johnny on. Yeah, we gotta double
put
up.
Johnny on the spot.
Yeah, old Johnny.
He'll be your Johnny on the spot.
Yeah, he will. Old right. John Camp, the great and something.
Great American.
Great American. Like the store. Him and his fucking tractor.
He's got another tractor one. I can hear this.
Yeah, it sounds like he's just got it running in the background. Fucking guy.
Wait, so you sent it yesterday?
Oh, I did. What?
Would it be the 10th?
Or either that or the 9th. Fucking A, man.
Oh, right here.
Straight sending shit.
No, that's just an image.
Oh.
Let's see.
No.
F. Yeah, here's one I haven't opened.
Got one? Mang and Neads show, man. We're checking emails right now. If you're bored. If you're bored.
We're keeping
John Camp in the loop.
We're keeping this baby
since
going.
He's been so busy.
All right, here we go.
Yeah, he gets busy, all right. Busy in the morning with dudes.
From Johnny.
From Camp Boy.
Let me get this big.
We're going to play it. I don't think the tractor's running in this particular image, but I could be wrong.
All right.
Do we have sound, Ange? Do we have sound?
So the other day I was headed to the Amish to get some rough cut lumber.
Oh,
some larch.
shit. That's the same one.
Oh, man.
Good for building with.
I thought I already downloaded that one.
Huh?
Right? It's about the Amish one.
Well, hold on a second. Now you got me all fucked
That was
up.
the 9th, so that was the day before. So hold on a second.
So wait.
10th. I got a K from you. That's it. You didn't send me one yesterday.
Hold on. Let me listen. You gotta hear some of this shit. He's breathing hard. He is. It's just wind. Waiting for him to say something so I can see if it's the video I sent. It's like he doesn't fucking talk.
Not talking on this one. This is just a visual.
Oh yeah, dude.
What?
It is. No, there's no what to it. All right. So he set the oh, you gotta watch this one. I gotta send it. I'm sending it right now. So he set that we could play some background music or whatever, just to. Anyways, he set the camera up looking at cinder blocks.
Yeah.
And then you see that cocksucker driving up with that Kubota. He cannot stay off a fucking vehicle when he's got the camera on. So, or I just sent one though.
Oh, you sent another one?
I think.
Let's see.
I don't know. I don't even know. I'm out here Like,
yeah, I got. Oh, you know what? I should probably do a refresh.
all right, so you got. All right, got to play the one that's 2 minutes and 24 seconds first. So HHH, don't play first.
Play yo.
Play no. Well, the yo might be the one I sent the other day, or they
No.
both come today.
I got no attachment though.
Yeah, that's how I do it. I just the one I just sent. Play now. Play it.
Working on it.
They're working for you. It's Monday the 11th, motherfuckers. Thought I was slipping, didn't you? Hadn't swore yet, huh? Boom.
Monday. Today's Monday.
It is. Day after Sunday.
Yeah, I got nothing.
What?
Not coming through, man.
What the fuck are you doing in there?
What'd you send it to? My email?
Yeah. Aren't you looking at it? Old fucking Sonic himself. The Hedgehog. Angelo.
Sonic Gardens. You're listening to the Mang and Neads show live.
Yeah, you sons of...
We're live here. This is 57th day straight of
Daddy
running
with
this
a
show.
pistol. I'm a son of a gun.
We go live about 4 o'clock every day.
That's what we do.
And
If we don't, it's later.
yeah, there
So-
we got a comment from Warner.
Yeah, what's he doing?
You labeled your emails like you label your CDs.
Oh, I didn't know if he had the peanut butter out and had his dog in the closet with him, hanging out.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Anything's possible.
Is that crunchy or is that creamy?
Mm.
Have you got the fucking email yet?
It's okay, yeah.
Yeah. I done did, Josh.
I done
yeah.
did get it. I done did get it, Josh. Here we go.
Yeah.
All right,
Gotta
we're
see the
gonna open
cam.
this one.
Camp.
We're gonna make this one biggie.
Is it 2:24 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Mother son of a gun. All right.
All right, and for the start.
Oh yeah. All right.
What is this guy gonna do?
He's gonna come up around the back, folks. Oh. Is he? Is he coming up around the back?
We're getting there. We're on 30 seconds here. See some cinder blocks. Oh yeah, coming up around the back. Here we go.
Yeah. I haven't even
Coming in
watched the
hot.
video, so I don't know what happens.
We're gonna find out right now.
I'm on a 15-hour delay out here.
Is your TV screen on?
Nah, it'd be cool if he crashed. Very interesting video. This is the one I should be talking about,
Yeah,
but
you're supposed to be
I haven't
talking.
said a fucking
Jeez,
word.
Keep quiet.
As you can see, the 8 cinder blocks just sitting there. They haven't moved the whole.
Let it hit the camera.
Haven't moved at all.
Good job. Good
Yeah.
job.
Oh! Here he is. Here comes Johnny with his pecker and his.
Well, now you're way behind. Rocks dropped like 20
What?
seconds. What's
Behind. Far behind, man.
Yeah. There, he's backing out.
He was so close, the camera came out of focus, huh? Oh, Johnny.
He's gonna make it all the way back over.
Oh, yeah,
And shut
this
this
is-
camera off in the next 21 seconds.
This is
That's
some-
amazing.
Interesting work. Oh, yeah. You're doing a hell of a job. He gained some speed, didn't he?
Oh, damn, he almost got whacked.
Fucking
that
hey.
fucking flying bark.
He's already been drinking.
Flying bark shot.
Oh, boy.
Good land.
Oh, yeah.
Hell of a job.
Huh. Seen some dude running through the woods there.
You got to go wide with those. The taller you get, the wider you got to go with your rock wall, right?
Yeah, old John. Leaves blowing in the wind.
Bad. Did you see that one, though? The bark almost smacked.
I don't know if I seen the bark.
It was a leaf or a big old piece
I seen
of
a
bark
leaf.
almost.
Oh, there he is. He didn't have anything to say. He was out of breath from running over there. Oh, hot breath himself. John Camp.
Welcome.
Welcome.
All right, everybody. You're listening to the Mang and Neads Show live on Sonic
Now
Gardens
you got to play
Radio.
the next video because he talks, I think.
All right. Yeah, that's right. We need another.
We need to hear.
When was that one? Because that was a while ago as well. Obviously, because.
No, that was today. I sent it earlier today. I sent one without an attachment because that's how you get them to pay attention.
All right, so the next one is Low. You titled it.
Yeah. But is it the same video or is it a different
How
video?
do I know?
This would have been earlier.
Let's see.
I think.
No, it looks like the same one, 224.
Oh, this one would be like 2-something.
Not 24, though.
Oh. What's
Maybe all
Warner
his
doing?
videos are 24. We can definitely give him a call. He's waiting.
I don't know if anybody wants to talk to him.
What else?
I
Then you
just
got the
wonder what
one.
he's doing.
You got one that was nothing. Then
214.
Yeah, you sent me two of the same one.
214?
The same video, I can tell, because it's image 6958.
Oh.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Well, you dirty son of a bitch.
Here we go. I'm calling the man.
I got the video coming.
Oh, you do? We'll watch it with him.
Pack.
Yo.
Choker.
You are live on the Mang and Neads Show.
Uncle
What's happening,
Suck'em.
Ryan?
Sonic Gardens Radio.
If it isn't old Bubble Lips.
Yeah.
I was watching. It's like, hey, we should call Warner. Josh was like, I don't know why you'd want to do that. And then my phone rings.
Yeah.
That's why
shit.
I'm in the control room.
He's in the cockpit, Warner.
Thank God. Hey, thanks for the plug on the mural. That was good. You're like, I really like that imagery. Josh is like, meh.
Yeah, it's okay.
Dick. Meh, he goes. Oh, Warner, meh. Oh, Jesus Christ. I laugh so loud, man. People are probably thinking I'm like watching like a real comedy show, but I'm just that's the sound of my balls busting.
Yeah.
All right, we got a Johnny.
That was a good
speech.
one, wasn't
we got
it?
one more Johnny speech that he ran at me, and this one he talks. The other one
we think he
laying
talks.
some rocks down.
Maybe he doesn't talk.
No. Yeah, he does. Come on, Johnny.
Come on, Johnny.
Come on, Johnny. Come around the corner. Words of wisdom.
Oh, he's on that fucking tractor again. What the fuck?
What's he doing now? Dropping another load?
Fucking Johnny out in the wood dropping loads.
Load of stone. Here we go. Here he comes.
I mean, he could have come up with something a little more clever than just setting a fucker in a...
Wait, he's looking at us. No. He's trying to get it.
He should be yelling.
Here we go. Another drop. Another drop.
I mean, did he put his fucking stones far enough away or what?
Why'd you pick up that stick with it? You don't want that in there.
That's interesting shit, John.
Oh, excellent drop, John.
Yeah, what's he got? What's he got hanging?
There was a stick.
Oh.
He doesn't want to bury that. It's gonna mess up everything. Stick will rot away. Shit'll crack.
He's one of the slowest operators I've ever seen, isn't he? Oh, holy shit! I've seen blind people go faster than this.
It's going to do it. I mean, he's got 30 seconds left, but I
Yeah,
can't
maybe.
imagine anything good's going to happen.
Right. It'd be
Here he
great
comes
if he
up.
had a blooper and he crashed or something.
He's coming closer to the camera.
Wipe it out, just run the camera over.
Got to get out and turn off the camera now.
Yeah, he's gonna do it from up here. Nope. He keeps going down the hill right here. He wants us to see him crash one of these times. Lose control and fucking roll it.
That's it.
That's it.
No words out of that one. All right.
Huh. What a peckerhead. Well.
Woody Woodpecker.
Yeah.
Nice. So, Ryan, how's your day going, man?
Not bad, man. Hanging in there. I got to do. We came to an agreement with my dad, because he's got to do something. You know what I mean? Can't wait the other 9 days of quarantine, so we got to stretch the limits. So we're doing some work in the shop.
Nice.
But we're wearing face masks.
Yeah. Just no clothes.
Yeah. Face masks only.
Yeah. Look, Dad.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
You wanna dock me, or should I dock you?
Man, I'm fucking falling out.
How are we gonna do this?
Falling out of the chair out here. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, I watched that. I was talking earlier about the Waco, Texas.
Oh yeah, let's re-bring this up.
Well, I just wanted to get his input, what he knew about it.
He was there.
But they came out with a...
He was one of the young kids.
They just had a mini series. They just had a series on Netflix that broke it down, 7 episodes, and it was based on based on the book from one of the survivors in the place, as well as the other side of it was the FBI negotiator.
Nothing like him.
And his perspective of what happened. Which was crazy because you learn. Yeah, you learn in that story that dude was trying so hard to get them all out of there peacefully, and they were so fed up. It was 51 days they had him in holdup, and this guy was so wanted to get him out peacefully, and the FBI wanted to start using force.
Whew.
And then they ended up.
But he was fucking lying the whole time. The negotiator, wasn't he?
No, he was
lying to the public, saying they're molesting their kids.
No, that was the FBI.
Yeah, that was the FBI guy.
That was the different. The negotiator is the guy that was a teacher of how to deal with people and how to calm them down and how to.
Yeah, but then he turned around and was we talked to him, and wasn't he the one?
No, there was definitely 2 of them.
No, there was that. He wasn't the head of the FBI. He was just the guy there was more than one negotiator, and this was the senior. And they fired him the day, the boss FBI came in that was running it, and he said, "We've had enough of following. We've given you time.
Yep.
They haven't come out, and we're going in tomorrow." And he's like, "I'm calling them right now," and they're like, "Nope, you're done. You're going home." And they just sent him home. Next day, they went in and killed all those people.
Nope.
It was pretty bad. Awful. Stain.
Oh, I got to try to whisper to my dad here.
Oh,
hey, Dad,
boy.
you're live on the Mang and Neads show.
Yeah.
Quit messaging me about a podcast. I'm getting my phone's dinging because I was texting him right before he called. He's like, "How long does it take for you to answer a question?" Yeah. Say hi to the world, Dad.
Hey, how you doing?
We're doing great. How you doing, Big Dale?
Hey, Needham, you.
Hey.
I can't swear on Nanny's here.
Don't swear.
He can't swear because Mom's here. I can't. Okay.
He's not
Yes
allowed.
or no? Do you want me to order 200 of those things? It takes 5 to 10 days.
I don't know. I don't think so.
No?
I don't know. Hey, can you wait 10 minutes?
If you're buying, Dale, order whatever the fuck you want.
These millennials.
Tell him if he's buying, to order what he wants.
These millennial parents. he's messaging me on Messenger.
What's he?
He's like, "Hey, hello." I'm like, Jesus Christ.
He wants to buy something.
He wants to buy little dowel pins for putting a sign together that we're going to do next week, but he needs to buy them now.
Well, why don't you just let him buy 200 of them then?
Because then he's going to be like, "I bought these goddamn things," and you know how dads sound.
Oh boy.
But anyway, I was listening. I was trying to signal him to be like, hey, stop fucking messaging me because it's dinging in my ear.
Right.
But he it's hard to get his attention. Anyway, I was listening. I figured I had to call him out.
Yeah.
On air. That might have messed up some things.
Now he's gonna be like,
but
"What's
yeah,
that
okay. So
show?"
I see
now
what
he's
you're
gonna
saying.
Go back and
so
hear all the other ones.
Yeah. So there was two. It's like not good cop, bad cop, but almost like two different things altogether. But they were both FBI. Or was the negotiator?
Well, it started
the FBI and
it
wasn't the ATF.
Started with the ATF. ATF showed up, and whatever happened, we'll never know who fired first. But a whole gunfight broke out, and Koresh got shot. And then they just basically said they weren't coming out, and they held up for 51 days.
But the ATF was the one.
The ATF was going to serve the warrant.
Yes.
And then they brought in the FBI. FBI took over. The negotiator took over, and he attempted to, Oh, one of the other perspectives was the ATF guy that originally infiltrated the place.
Right.
Like, he moved in across the street, and then they approached him like, "Hey, neighbor, come on over." And then he was super sketched, and there was like one moment they showed where he like brought a gun because he was kind of, and then Koresh caught him. And he's like, "Why would you bring a gun in here?" And he was so like, he forgave
Wait a
him.
minute. So this isn't it's not a documentary. This is like a made-for-TV movie type of thing.
Oh yeah. And it's
I was gonna say, because how do they know what he said?
So it's like the guy and that guy too. The way they portrayed it was that guy, the ATF guy that like infiltrated him, he realized that like he was a little nutty as far as like thinking, God talks to him, obviously, but he also was able to say that they were like nice, they were your
buddies in it, Warner.
Yeah, I don't get that whole thing. It's like you got to believe in God to hold any kind of public office, right? You're not going to be, you can't be a president, you can't be anything if you don't believe in God. You know what I mean?
They'll crucify you if you say you're
atheist. Yeah, but if you, you know what I mean? But if you're too close and like, you're fucking nuts, God doesn't really exist. Come on, man. We're just saying that shit, but you actually believe it. It's like, get out of here.
Right.
We're going to burn you and all your kids.
Or you could be even closer.
Well, do you guys remember the old,
one of them priests?
it was a documentary. It was about the trial.
Oh.
You ever see that with all the video footage of the tanks and where they poked holes in the building to make the crosswind?
Yep.
And how it was, that you don't do that shit by mistake. Like they're far too familiar with creating a backdraft.
Yeah. Oh, the other. So the final. Yeah. The final stake in the deal was that he because the first round when he originally said they were going to come out, he wanted to give his speech to the public. So he demanded they aired it on TV.
Right.
And it was an hour long, and then all the pundits and everybody just cut him apart as far as being a rambler and this and that. And so then he reneged on his thing. Or he didn't.
I remember that.
What in the
because they
so
instead of being like, hey, they knocked on the door and then started shooting us. He didn't say that. He was all biblical.
Right, and he's like, and like I mentioned, he uses a lot of the biblical idioms where he's just constantly, saying quotes from the Bible to complete sentences, and it's like. There was no, like, as far as what I saw, like, substance of what he was saying, anything different than any other, like, preacher or somebody. Like, his case, he memorized the Bible. So it's like, once you memorize the Bible, you just, I mean, I'm not saying he wasn't, like, a real, like, believer and, like, legit. Like, that's the whole thing, is whether he was or wasn't became irrelevant in the end.
And this is is this the guy from, like, did they just, what's it on?
It's on Netflix, but the guy who plays Koresh
is that Shannon guy, Michael Shannon or something?
No, his name's
he don't play Koresh, but he's in it. He's like
remember Gambit in Wolverine, or like Origins, X-Men Origins, like Wolverine or one of those.
No.
He was like he plays him. Phenomenal.
Taylor.
There was a made-for-TV movie back in the day, and it was one of the stars. I don't know if you guys.
There's one a couple years ago. The one I saw a couple years ago.
Remember that?
What was it?
The two pilots, Wings.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But I never saw
the brothers and like the girl, and then well, Ted from Wings played David Koresh, and this is like late 90s.
Oh yeah, I bet you he did a good job. He was in he also played in The Shining.
Oh.
Or no, that was the other guy from Wings.
Yeah,
There's
the
two
other guy.
Wings guys.
Two of them.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Or
there was the
brothers.
the wild brother and then the real conservative one, but the conservative one played David Koresh, but
Oh yeah, he was in Storm
that
of the
one
Century.
he was straight like molesting kids. And
right.
he locked them all, like poured gas on them and lit them on fire. Like,
yeah, so according to this story, and this was from the kid that was inside, he was a drummer in the band.
Yeah, he was.
And he's, his claim was that was not what was going on.
Well, yeah, so that's what the documentary said. The trial of Waco, if you can look into that, where they have all the aerial footage, the helicopter footage, and all that shit, it was dirty pool, man. Like, it was the tear gas they used was illegal, and they knew it was going to catch fire, and all it would take is a fucking lantern.
Yeah, they
cut their power off 30 days before they tear gassed them. So what are the chances they're not going to have a fucking lantern burning?
Well, even on top of that, that was one of the things they pointed out in the movie was that at the end, like the radio guy was like doing a broadcast, and he just did this list of every time that the FBI or there'd been a raid on American citizens in compounds like this, it always ends the same way. They hold up, they won't leave, they tear gas them, a fire starts, and everybody dies. It's just it's happened, over a dozen times in our history since the 70s.
Wow, that's cool that it came out that way, that it's the actual other side.
Yeah, I saw it came out a couple years ago. I saw it.
Well, the part that killed me is the one that came out, you talking about the movie or the documentary?
Both. There's a documentary that came out a few years ago too, but this one that Angie's talking about came out a couple years ago or whatever.
Yeah, it's not exactly brand new. I
I
finally got around to watching
it. On net. I saw it on whoever.
Oh, like one of those.
Well, the Paramount network there, wherever they bought out, they play it. It was on that. I forget what station they bought out, but anyways, it was on that. It was on a couple years ago. Like you said, it was on a bunch of different nights.
Well, that's eye opener. I thought so. You're saying that there was like a division of, so the negotiator and the whoever was
in
controlling
charge.
The tanks and the guns and shit.
Different people. There was a tactical, so like they kind of break that out too of how a situation would go. You bring in that guy, and he's the guy that's trying to gain trust with the inside, but then you have the tactical people
not fear.
Now this other guy was sitting there saying, they're not, like, he's basically saying, they're just stalling, they're messing with you, and he was worried about that they were all gearing up and that they were starting to, he wanted to remove all the cars from, just things like that, and then he started a
taking out the blind spots and shit.
PSYOPs, which is like psychological warfare, where they just
they played shitty music from like early or late 60s,
or even like if Chris was to go to his keyboard and just wail on sounds that were just like all nights, cranking lights and
wail.
I remember
everything.
they compared it to the Willy Wonka, the trip through the tunnel or whatever.
Willy.
All right, so my question is, the guy, the FBI agent, who I thought it was the negotiator, who went on TV and made the TV broadcasts that was saying all that shit that, like, they won't feed their kids, they're starving their kids,
that was not,
and they're molesting the kids.
That was like a counterpart. They even they even went as far in this story was and I imagine it came from that negotiator's book that he wrote, but they even went as far as showed how those two guys had worked together on a previous case, and they had a couple issues with each other, so they were kind of battling between. The negotiator was the guy to resolve it. It all means by peace, and there was no timeline. You can never put a timeline on somebody that's in a desperate situation. All these things, and the other guy's theory was if we don't show force, the rest of the world's going to make us, the reason why we have control over the citizens is because there's
God,
because we make
You're
them
afraid.
think, you know what I'm saying? Because cops to people is like 1 in 5,000. So there's 5,000 people to every cop. But
yeah, and we can't realize that.
But
we
somehow
can't let that.
Well,
manifest.
nobody, because we don't stand together. I mean, I think about that when I see somebody pulled over. I'm a big time. I like to flash my lights when I see a cop on the side of the road to all the cars coming, and to me, that's like I might save that person's day. From
Or let a drunk driver.
Yeah.
Slip by.
Well, if they can catch the lights and understand what I'm saying, then I guess they're not that drunk.
Well.
Yeah, I gotta check that out, man. Because I was Waco. That was a huge. I mean, they lied horribly, and then they said that they said that David Koresh lit everyone on fire, and he was a horrible person, and he burned up like 30 kids.
He didn't do
right.
that.
I mean, he without a doubt.
But then they proved that it was the tanks that did it.
Yeah,
and all it would take is either enough gunfire coming from inside the house would have ignited it, but
nobody
when they tear gassed that house, no one was firing anything. There was no.
But
the fire was a month before that. The last gunshot was like a month before that.
Right.
Or even more. Like you said, 50 days.
They never shot again.
See, they knew what quarantine was all about.
After that,
they were ahead of the game in '93.
Yeah.
They knew the quarantine.
No, I remember that because the next thing to come was OJ.
Yeah, they knew the quarantine game. Well, they were 93. OJ was 93 too, or 94?
94.
Yeah, they were 93. I don't know
Rodney
exactly.
King. That was 96.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Those riots.
Yeah.
Or that might have been
92.
How about the Watts riots? What year were they? Were they way?
Oh yeah, that was 92. So that was earlier.
I only know from what Sublime told me.
Right.
Oh yeah,
it's April
92. But that wasn't Rodney, was it?
April 29th.
Well, Rodney King was the one.
Get your fucking day right.
Rodney King. That was over the Rodney King beating. Then L.A. let those guys off, and then
they had.
Then there was the
that
riots,
was 92.
and then there was a guy. Then the other big name that came out because they were like, well, they took this truck driver, pulled him out of a car, beat him. That was Reginald Denny.
Yep,
I remember
Reginald
that name.
Denny.
And so that was like the two sides of like hatred and racism and all that shit, man.
Right.
Man, it makes you wonder how they can air something like that, because they've got to. If it's what you're saying, it shows FBI being straight scumbags. Yeah. And then Janet Reno, would they have her? She was a fucking. I thought she was the one. She was the one that was like
Attorney General.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was the one being like, they're molesting kids and blah, 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 blah.
That's where they showed a scene that those two FBI guys, the one like the leader and then the like main tactical commander,
Michael Shannon.
They flew up there, and the negotiator guy, at least they portrayed it in the movie, didn't know that they were going. He's like, hey, where are those guys? And they're like, they just got on a plane somewhere. And then they show those guys in the Attorney General's office saying, we've got to go in. You need to authorize us to go in. And she's like, well, won't the children get hurt? And he's like, they're already molesting them, and we've already witnessed abuse and all this stuff. And it's like all that was lies just to get her to sign off on it.
Right, and then none of the kids exhibited any signs of abuse.
They took them all. They showed that in the movie
ones
too.
That went to,
when they took them all into the foster care, they're like, they're looking at them going, these are not.
Well, they didn't have trauma.
Kids.
They didn't have. They had no signs of trauma.
They were like, these are not abused kids. These
God was
are
on
happy
their side.
kids that are enjoy life.
That believe in God.
And they testified to that in the case, and it's still they didn't do anything. Like there was no repercussions. Like it was, but it was.
There never is.
That shit's fucking sad, man. That's sad.
Well, there never is. That's the whole point.
America.
Right. But
and think about it. Waco for the next 20 years meant some crazy shit.
Well, the wacko in Waco.
It's like, oh, fucking Waco. Here we go. It's going to be another Waco.
Can he not hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh.
He's just doing his best to not
Here we go.
Not to give you the leg, man.
Oh boy, we need a shirt that says that, Josh, in case we can't hear you. Just point to your shirt. That's what your mask should say, Josh.
Two thumbs up.
Oh boy, here we go.
Boy.
Oh, fucking pecker.
And that was where we just got revisited with that. I don't remember what the name of the guy was, but the guy that took over that. He refused to pay his taxes for his cattle grazing on state land, and he had worked it up to like $1 million. Yeah,
he did.
And they came to take his cattle, and he was like, "No way,
suck it."
And then they like moved in on the grounds, and like all the weapons came, and media and interviewing these guys that were saying they ain't letting the government come in and take their, and to me the one that was weird about that was that. And they didn't respond the same way. They left him alone, waited for them to have to leave, and then they pulled the one dude over and shot him in the head.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Oh, wait, didn't they shoot him and his kid? Wasn't there kids in the car in that one, too?
I don't know.
No, I don't think so, because it seemed like it was just a couple of the like guys leaving the compound. Everybody made jokes that they were going on a beer run.
So what we learned today is don't fuck around with a compound, and if they fucking are coming for you,
then let them in.
Let them in.
As unfair as it is,
surrender, motherfucker.
Surrender, dude. Surrender. That's the message that they're sending.
Yes, surrender, or we're gonna fucking kill you or half of you
without any repercussions.
Yeah,
right.
Nothing's gonna happen if they kill you.
Even if it's somebody's fault, they're gonna lie.
How did this negotiator write a book? He must be in hiding somewhere. Like that's some pretty bold.
He retired on bet.
Yeah, no,
he retired.
No, dude. Once your career, you're out. You can say whatever you want, and they're just gonna. It's the same way with that Bob Lazar. They're just gonna discredit you as a person. Like all of a sudden, they're gonna find something, be like, even if they have to make.
Man, he was a hell of a basketball player.
Even if they have to make it up, that's what we're looking at. It's like even if somebody has to come out and say. Oh,
yeah, they're gonna.
He raped me. Oh, that guy's a rapist. Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, you can't listen to what he had to say. Oh, he wrote a book. Of course, he just wanted to make some money.
Well,
yeah, pandemic.
I mean, you don't write a book fucking to not make money.
No, I would say true. On this one, on like something like that, it sounds like it needed to be said. I always thought that the negotiator was the guy lying to the American people. It's like we're trying to send in food. We're trying to give these kids food, and they won't take it, right?
Yeah, they mentioned all that stuff. That was not the negotiator. That was that's not. It wasn't.
All right.
Yeah, because that's the whole thing. That's why America was behind it. They're molesting kids in there still every day. Every day we wait, these kids are getting abused.
And do you remember that?
And they're doing it like religiously. Like they were trying to impregnate like 7-year-olds.
Do you remember that one that was in the recent 10 years? Where
Jim
they
Jones?
Did that? Oh. No, the one where they was. I don't. No, not Jonestown. The one in recent 10 years where they raided I want to say it was an Amish type of compound.
Oh no!
And they I don't think it was Amish. It was
everybody was related.
But they took all the women and children out for that same reason, and it was hundreds. It was 300 women or something.
Sister wives.
And they were according to them though they were being held against their will.
One big family.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those Amish girls, they want to get out, man. They want to go get tattoos and dye their hair.
Yeah. Do blow.
Jesus, man. That's crazy. Waco, dude. That's wild, man.
Wacko and Waco.
Yeah, but the thing is, the tear gas they use, man, that's the unbelievable part. It's not just regular tear gas. They use, industrial strength war, tear gas you would only use on an enemy of America.
Yeah, that was what that negotiator went to his bosses and was like, he saw him pull up and he lifted the tarp and saw what it was and he went to him and said, he's like, he goes, this was deemed illegal in the Geneva Convention. So you can't use this on terrorists, and you're going to use it on American citizens.
Oh, hell yeah, man!
That was when they let him go, right
super
after that
super
day.
Fucking flammable, man.
Yeah, they don't want a brainwasher fucking around.
Yeah, but the weird part about it is, so the guys from Waco, no violent criminals, no nothing like that. No one had a record really. I mean, they might have had some wayward teens with shoplifting or some kind of record like that. But as far as guns, everyone there was allowed to own guns, and they bought and sold guns. This is in Texas.
Right.
So they always went to the swap meets. That was their big deal. They went to swap meets and they sold like jelly and shit like that and guns.
Right.
But
Guns
they
and
were
jelly.
the two different stories was, at first they were like, we're going to have a religious war, so we're building up weapons and, they were going to attack or whatever. But as far as like, the people were saying Koresh was like, we are going to be attacked and we need to build up weapons. And it's almost like that was true. It's like God really was talking to him.
Well, that's what he said. He compared it, Book of Revelation, and that was a big thing at the end of his run, right before they came in, is that he said, okay, God spoke to me. We're going to come out. He goes, I just need to rewrite the story of the 7 seals out of Revelation. And they're like,
Jesus
really?
Christ.
How long is that going to take? And he's like, a week.
I'm like, don't waste your fucking breath, dude. No one speaks that language.
He's
man.
like a week, and then his thing in the compound, according to the one kid that wrote it, was that he was he was just said, once the people hear this, it's going to change everything. And it was like, come on, man.
Yeah, it'd be the same as the first time, man. They played that on the news. I remember they played that, and he's just like, words, just Bible, man, Bible talk. And I was like, what the fuck is this, man? He should have been like, they're shooting us. We weren't doing anything. They came up and shot us. We were minding our own business. That would make sense. Instead, he was like, and thus thou said to thee, blah, 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 blah.
They will
like,
come to your door,
fuck?
and they will drive you out, and you will need to go to the, it's just
Thy
like, come
shall
on.
not
And
receive.
And like I said, just a constant. He memorized the Bible, so that ended up being his only way of communicating language. Everything he said was a idiom of what came from the book that he read and memorized.
Bunch of bullshit is what it was.
Well, so like we were talking about before, I brought this up a couple times about the king that was warned that his son was going to kill him, so he sent him away, and his son ended up, whatever,
banging his mom.
Killing him and banging the mom and all that.
Right.
It's the same thing, man.
Backdoor.
David Koresh was told that he was going to be, they needed to stockpile weapons because a war was being brought to their doorstep, so he stockpiled weapons. But stockpiling those weapons is what red flagged the fucking ATF to come to their fucking door.
Right. Hey,
so if he never stockpiled weapons, they never would have come to the door.
Right. For your
You know what I mean? It's so it is biblical, man. It really
so
is.
crazy.
Waco should be in the new Bible.
Chris Pope just wanted to let us know that Timothy McVeigh bombed Oklahoma City in retaliation for the Waco situation. So
killed a bunch of innocent people to wait, Oklahoma City, didn't he bomb like an FBI building?
Building,
killed a bunch of children
with a white van. Pulled a white van up out front.
It was 160 something. It was the biggest one in America until fucking 9/11.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, now the coronavirus makes it all look like nothing.
Well,
now we have
Trump's like, hold my
beer for a month and a half. 911.
Trump's like,
daily.
hold my queer. Fucking.
Yeah. You guys talk about that? About Trump's Mike Pence's press secretary getting the corona?
We brought it up yesterday, but we were like, what,
I mean,
it's just like, oh man, I'm so like,
yeah, if they can't stop it from getting in the White House, fucking, they ain't stopping it from much.
No, it just seems like they're not even.
Yeah, they're opening. Open for biz. I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
Open for business, man.
Yeah.
It's all.
They got shit to do, Warner. Donald. They're not even.
DJT.
They're not even quarantining.
John Trump.
Johnny Trump. It's the Mang and Neads show. Warner disappeared.
Live.
No, I'm
Gardens Radio.
Yeah. Stace, right. I always ask Stace to be quiet when I'm downstairs, but she can't. She got to talk to her goddamn sister on Skype.
Oh, really?
Oh, it's
Skyper.
They should join the cast. They can have their conversation right on the mAng and Neads show.
Yeah.
That would be a good one. It'd be a good one. Lots of talk about seeds and how beans grow and
Yeah.
Everything like that. It's like I'm gonna curl my hair. I think I'm gonna curl my hair and this and that. So I can look good for the 2 people that see me on Skype. I was wondering why I can't get any. My shit cuts out all the time. My dad's complaining. He's like, "Hey, this the Netflix. What's up with the Netflix? It's saying, this doesn't work and that doesn't work." It's because I'm talking to you guys. Well, no, that has nothing to do with it.
It could.
But I'm like, I have like a little YouTube video playing, but Stacy is like these video calls. They pull some data. Holy shit, man! When you're streaming live and all that. So we got Dad watching Netflix. Stacy's got, whenever she Skypes with her, I say Skype. That's probably like such an outdated thing.
It's
It
Zoom.
was like the first.
They're zooming in now. Skype. It's just a word.
Yeah. But she puts up Emmett with Netflix. So we got 2 Netflix things running, and I've got YouTube running with the volume off, so I can watch Josh give the mic a hand job because it makes me laugh.
Right.
With no volume. And it's so then it's something one of them drops and they just realize it's those Zoom calls, man. They're heavy, man. They are heavy. Zoom. But yeah, I just got flagged down, so I gotta pull the plug.
Alrighty.
Off to
pull the
eat
plug.
Some food. What's for dinner tonight?
Oh, I don't know, man. We had tacos last night, so we're probably normally taco has like taco reprise night, so it's like taco salads or something.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what I do is with my tacos,
What do you do, Ange?
I got my new thing where I roll them up and then like grill them a little more.
Oh.
I like roll up a flour one and then I put it in with a little bit of oil and then it's like a chimichanga.
Oh.
Yeah, dude. Put cheese over the top of it and eat it with a fork and knife.
Oh, toppy.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. I'm going to go put that in the suggestion box.
Yeah, stuff it in there.
I might go make some tacos tonight.
Yeah, why don't you go do that, Ange, for dinner?
Yeah, dude.
Wait, no, I have a
dinner date?
No, I'm doing recording tonight. I might have a dinner date. Yeah, if I get out of here.
I bet.
Early enough. 8 o'clock tonight, though, I'm doing some recording.
Yeah.
At the studio?
Yeah, I got a guy coming in.
One guy.
And he's gonna
bring his.
He's raps. He's got some raps, so I'm gonna put him on a corner in the stage.
Name, it's not MCRV.
Nope.
Oh, man, he's got a new rapper.
Yeah, his name's Bane.
He's from Norwich.
Bane.
Whoa.
He was in the Batman movie.
B4N3.
He's a bad motherfucker.
B4,
what is it?
Nice.
B4N3. Bane.
He put a fucking number in his name?
Well, it looks cool. The 4 is the A.
B4 anal. What about after?
All right, guys, we're gonna I'm gonna walk you through this whirlwind. It's gonna sound like I'm walking through a mall.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, well, take care.
Warner's
man.
down at Hot Topic.
All right, bro. Later.
Hot Topic.
Hot Topic.
Later, bros.
Live report.
Peace.
Later.
All right, that was a call from the great Ryan Warner.
Yeah.
We are live on the mAng and Neads show, Sonic Gardens Radio, day 57. Anybody that hasn't subscribed, please do help us grow our channel. We're having a good time.
Timothy McVeigh, he was also mad about Ruby Ridge there. He was mad about that too. Yeah, that was like an 11-day standoff. That wasn't nowhere near. But he was mad about that too. That set him off. Then he eventually fucking went off the rocker.
I think
he was an Army vet too, wasn't he?
Ruby Ridge ended without them killing everybody, but the son and the wife of the dude got killed.
Right. It was an 11-day standoff for sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was Randy, right? Old Randy Weaver. I think. Yeah, Timothy McVeigh. He was in the Persian Gulf War, one of them deals.
Desert Storm.
Something like that, man. For sure.
Well, that was a bullshit war too, you'd think.
Well,
I mean, I guess they were trying to protect the people of
a lot of them are pretty
Kuwait,
bullshit.
right?
If you
That
think
was when-
about it.
Well, the first one was at least because Saddam was gonna
There's
invade.
no excuse.
Well, he was
for
gonna
any of them.
invade Kuwait, remember? And then we went to protect Kuwait. The second war was just about going after Iraq.
Yeah.
The little.
Yeah,
Bush.
they still both were bullshit. You could have done
Oh
without
yeah, I
them.
mean, I imagine.
The only one you really couldn't have done without was World War II. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you had to
take down.
We had to go in.
Hits.
If we didn't go in, a lot more people would have been fucked.
And we didn't exactly jump into that one. It took quite a bit.
Yeah, we were doing two at once though, right? We had a bunch of people faced on right Japan, and we had that going on too, right?
Right.
And the World War, right? It wasn't. I mean, obviously you would kind of pigeon shoot or put it all in the same thing, but just because it was at the same time, but it was kind of like
multiple wars.
Yeah, because
on.
Japan and Germany weren't on the.
They weren't like on the same side.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah. Good time to blow some shit up, they said.
Man, oh man.
Cocksucker. Yep.
How about
what? What do you got today?
I got a song from let me see. It's gonna be from the Jesse Tressler session with
Jesse Tressler.
This Sleeping Lion with old Jesse. And this was the most recent one that I just released, which was his Dead and Gone.
Oh yeah.
Let me get this thing queued up here.
Well, you're not alive and well if you're dead and gone.
I guess that's does make sense.
Whole
right.
lot of it.
So listening to the MAng and Neads show, Sonic Gardens Radio, Jesse Tressler, Dead and Gone.
Sonic. MAng and Neads show.
right. Jesse Tressler.
Oh, yeah.
Sleeping Lion Sessions. Mang and Neat Show.
Mang and Neats.
It's Neato.
Sleeping Lion.
Neato Neats.
Neato. Neato. Yeah. Fucking Neato. What the fuck? That's Neato. Who you been hanging out with? Neato.
It's Neato. Mang and Neat Show. It's Neats.
It's Neato. We got Neato out there at the desk.
That's your Italian name.
Yeah.
Neato. Because Joshy, that doesn't sound cool.
Joshy?
Yeah, I mean, it's all right.
They do it, though. They do it all. They all do it. Yeah. My grandma was Italian. Full blown.
Yeah.
So wasn't yours?
Yep.
The Italians.
The Italians. They moved to Norwich.
Norwich.
Long time ago.
Yeah. My great grandpa Peanut. He come over.
Oh yeah, that was his name?
That's what they called him, because he looked like a fucking peanut, because he was fucking 4'9", bald, olive skin, looked like a peanut. Seriously.
So that's what they called him.
Yeah. That's exactly what they called him.
It's a cool name, I guess.
Well, I mean, yeah.
You know, if you get it, you get it. You
Right.
just get stuck with them.
There's a lot worse nicknames you could get.
Yeah, definitely.
For sure. Can't think of any right now. I mean, I know some people that have some fucked up nicknames. Yeah. But anyways,
here we are.
Yeah, Blues Traveler.
Live.
One of their hits. What do you got?
Yeah, nothing, man.
Oh, you got nothing?
No, I ain't really
Too busy
too busy, you know.
thinking about the rap concert. Getting ready for that.
Yeah. Well, it's not a concert.
Well,
You got
yeah,
five songs to record. Take
right.
a couple hours.
Right. Couple takes. Each song. Just a few. Can't hit everything on the first.
Ooh, we got the reps for the pilot and the Kobe Bryant crash blame passengers for the fatal flight.
Ooh.
Yeah, but that's funny because that's like Trump blaming all the people under him. It's like when you're the captain of a plane or you're the pilot. You're
Of
the
a
boss.
helicopter.
You're the fucking boss, and it doesn't matter who's got money or whatever the deal is. If there's a weight limit or if there's something like that.
Why did they have too many people on it?
I didn't see the details of it. I just saw that.
We got to
clip.
get some details. We need these details.
A loved one of the pilot who was operating the helicopter that crashed and killed NBA legend Kobe Bryant, his daughter, and several others claimed in newly filed court papers that circumstances surrounding the fatal flight were directly caused by the passengers' own behavior and their decision to fly on that day.
Yeah, it was windy as fuck out. You're foggy.
Representative of
see.
experienced pilot Ara George Zobian made the statement in response to Vanessa Bryant's lawsuit against Zobian and the flight company Island Express following the devastating January 26th crash in Calabasas, California. Yes. Helicopter pilot climbing to avoid clouds just before the crash.
Hit a fucking mountain.
Did he really? Hit a mountain?
Well, the side of it. The one he was trying to go over. Basically. I mean, there was...
Jesus. It's awful.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know how you can sue a helicopter company because they crash and... I mean, I guess you can. But it was foggy out, I think, or something. Especially up there in the mountain. I don't know. I wasn't fucking there. What the fuck am I talking about?
Yeah, well...
Pretty sure it was foggy, though.
I imagine, but I don't know. Like, again, if you're the pilot, if you don't think it's safe, then you should have said it wasn't
Fuck
safe.
it, right? But They call you up and tell you, yo, we'll
And
tip
they're
you
like-
fucking 300,000.
And then you're like,
There's
I'll be
nowhere
able to
near as
spend that,
much
Dad.
fog out that I saw. Yeah, I can spend that when I'm dead. Cash money.
cash.
Transfer it. Yeah, I don't know. Bad break, man.
A lot of them. A lot of bad breaks.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, man. I don't know.
We need to see that meltdown. Well, let's listen to it. Let's see what happens.
Many times that the U.S. is doing far better than any other country when it comes to testing.
Yes.
Why does that matter? Why is this a global competition to you if every day Americans are still losing their lives and we're still seeing more cases every day?
Well, they're losing their lives everywhere in the world. And maybe that's a question you should ask China.
China!
Don't ask me, ask China that question, okay? When you ask them that question, you may get a very unusual answer. Yes, behind you, please.
Well, there you have it.
Sir, why are you saying that to me specifically?
I'm telling you, I'm not saying it
Well,
specifically.
she took her
to
mask
anybody. I'm
off. She had
saying
the
it to anybody
mask
that
on
asks a
before.
nasty question
That's
like
not
that.
a nasty
Please
question.
go ahead.
Why does it matter?
Okay, anybody else? Please, go ahead in the back, please.
I have two questions.
No, it's okay.
But
We'll
you
go
pointed
here.
to me. I have two questions, Mr.
Next,
President.
please.
But you called on me.
I did, and you didn't respond, and now I'm calling on
Sorry, I just
the young lady in the back, please.
I just wanted to let my colleague finish.
Okay.
But can I ask you a
Ladies
question?
and gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Ooh.
Oh, he abrupt ending on that one, huh?
Yeah, he dissed old Caitlin Collins. Man. She was being nice to her colleague, too. He was mad.
Well, whenever they do
So that lady, when she said that, and he said that China to her, she pulled her mask down. She had her mask on. And then she asked why he said that right to her. As you heard.
Is she Chinese? Like, what's he talking about? Like, why did
she say that?
She was the one talking.
Yeah, and then she pulled the mask down because he's the way he said it to her. I don't know yet. I guess she might have been. I don't know. I couldn't see. I can't see. I'm blind.
Maybe that was like a. Yeah.
Getting after him.
Yeah, he is.
When was that, I wonder? Don't tell me he had a press conference today after that shit's running around the White House. Fuck.
Run rampant.
Running rampant out there in the ghetto of Washington. Donald Trump. DT. The DT.
Yo, I got another track here.
Oh, really?
This one is Buckshot's brother, live in front of this thing. I'm just gonna keep this, keep some music going.
Yeah. The old back door is locked.
Is it?
Oh yeah. Don't like people just walking the fuck in.
Buckshot's brother, run your mouth.
Yeah. Mega Neads Show. You heard it here.
Sick of breaking my back at a dead-end job. Working all week long for some rich slog. Makes me wanna go out now, steal and rob. Cause the minimum wage it just don't get me none. lately things don't seem the same. And telling me that it's all bound to change. I've been traveling, I've been moving on these days. Still find me in the same old place. And I don't know who's to blame. Whether it's your fault, whether it's my fault, it's all the same. And why do you always gotta run your mouth? You like to talk a lot about something you don't know nothing about. You don't know how bad I wanna come over there and knock you out. And the whole time going around talking about something they don't know nothing about. Time can be wasted and it can be saved. Take it with you where you're going anyway. Don't know why you get so upset when people say don't mean much, it don't mean a fucking thing. And why do you always gotta run your mouth? You don't know how bad I wanna come over there and knock you out.
Oh yeah,
Mega Need Show, motherfucker.
That's right. That's like our theme song for our show.
What? Run your mouth?
Yeah, Run Your Mouth. That should be our like Manga Needs theme song.
It should be. We'll play it every time from now on at the beginning.
Yeah.
Just a piece of it.
Run your mouth.
Why do you always gotta run your fucking yip?
People gonna come over here and knock us out.
Yeah. Pickup truck full of them.
Ah, shit.
Yeah. They wouldn't even. Yeah. Anyways.
Big yawn.
Big yawn. Oh, Yanni.
Big yawn. A cough from the desk. In
Yeah,
here.
you got the COVID.
You got the
COVID cough.
Coming.
Coming.
COVID coming in hot.
Coming in hot, bruh. The COVID, motherfucker. I went to the store this morning for a minute, masked up and shit, and I was back about, I don't know, 30 feet from the register, but I was way back there and there's a few people in front of me, and I always keep my distance and make sure I act like I don't know what you would call it, but so no one will even want to come near me when I'm in line. I do that, like I pace a couple feet to the left and right and stuff like that, so no one either gets near me, not within 10 feet. But while I was doing that, someone up that was at the register, it was the first time that I've been in the store since all this, and I heard them they had their mask on, but I heard a little cough up there. Oh man, set me into a fucking, I got right out of line, went back and to the back of the store basically, and fucking looked at some stuff and hung out. I took about 16 minutes to get back up front of the store and get in line. Yeah, I got nervous.
Yeah.
She did have a mask on though.
She coughed into her mask.
Yeah. I don't know. I just don't feel like getting sick. Fuck it. I don't care what you call it. I just don't feel like getting sick, so I just took a detour. And the store would like it because I picked up a couple more things. So there you have it. That's what I was doing. When the lady with the COVID. No, I don't know. COVID-19 and 20. So if it mutated now it's 20, right?
20 different strands?
No, I'm saying no because it was 19 because it was fucking 2019, right?
Well, that's when it was first discovered.
That's what I'm saying.
So it stays there. But the new one...
no. If they give you a new one though, it's 20, right?
I guess if they found mutations and they mutated and they discovered it
mutation
in a new time, then I guess
motherfuckers be out here mutating and shit. Drop the battery. So there was that.
Nice. Dropping batteries. Yeah, we're running low on them double A's, man.
Yeah. Fucking
I gotta get some more of them for the
These are all dead out here.
Yeah, we're going through them like hotcakes with those earphone receivers. I think that one I determined because I went over there to use it.
I think we should run a cable from in there along the wall like you got these other ones, and then down and over here like you do the snake, and then I could just plug in. Because it's, I mean, it would be cheaper for us to do that than
to buy batteries all the time. The cool thing would be like remote control remote control batteries.
Remote control? Or ones
rechargeable.
Ones that you plug into USB or some shit, right?
Yeah, that would be ideal.
You know what I did see when I was back there when we were looking that day?
Yeah.
I found some remember those headphones you had that were like they went on something like that, right? They recharged themselves? Or what were they?
Yeah. Those are just wireless headphones, but same thing. They would charge, but the batteries just like those things. They went they got overcharged or whatever.
I guess I have a battery charger, like whatever. I guess we could just get the rechargeable batteries for these.
Yeah, we had them and they were here. I remember I just recently gave them back to Nate because he had. I go, you got a charger? I go, you might as well take these then. They came from him anyway.
Oh.
Because he's the one who filled the things.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I just got them. You know, that sucks when you lose rechargeable batteries because they're expensive.
Rechargeable.
But yeah.
Charge them up. Motherfucker.
Yeah, keep going. Keeps going. Keeps going.
And go. That's the Energizer Bunny.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Well, yeah. So I got to. I got to
wear a mask at all times
tonight. So I was thinking I'd close her down early today.
Yeah, you might as well. Let's shut her down. Fucking A.
Hey, everybody out there! Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah.
We're gonna give you guys a closeout song.
Oh yeah.
You guys a rocker. We've been playing a lot of acoustic jams.
Now we're getting rocky.
I think we're gonna get into something a little bit
from 19 something.
Oh, this is gonna be from 2020. We're
20.
gonna do. Yo.
Oh, this is a rocker?
Perfect for this day and age.
Full band rocker.
Full band.
This one's Jesse Tressler original, written for the Shaka band. This one's
live
called
life like there's no tomorrow.
No Tomorrow, recorded 3/15/2020.
Nate wants you to live like there's no tomorrow.
Yeah, he did.
mAng and Neads. I'm out.
CNY Radio.
Thanks for having me. Tell your cousin.
I know that it ain't easy to let go of all the pain you hold inside, even when it seems there's no tomorrow. You can hold the ones you love, never let your feelings lose the battle, because the fight has just begun. I know that it ain't easy to let go of all the pain you hold inside.